Hello, welcome to Sandra's Bakehouse. Today we're making a traditional East European honey cake. It's very popular in Ukraine. The cake normally has many layers, and today we're making 8 layers of crispy honey cookies layered with some light cream with a bit of sourness. If you've never had a honey cake before, this recipe is a must try. So let's start with making the dough. Ingredients are super simple. Take 2 eggs, mix with some sugar, just until combined. Add some good quality honey of your choice. The more fragrant and rich tasting your honey is, the better the cake, so make sure you choose well. Some butter of any temperature, I have cold. Now we need to heat it up on a stove in a saucepan on medium to low heat. Just until the butter melts and you start seeing slight foam on the surface. The mixture needs to be really hot but not boiling. Make sure it's not boiling. Then the key ingredient, or the key step in the recipe, it's 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. We don't just add honey to the dough, we make a chemical reaction between honey and baking soda, which is amazing, you will see. This step creates amazing flavor, which is not like anything you've had before. The content of your saucepan will start foaming, increasing in size, which is exactly what we're looking for. Keep it on the stove for another half a minute or so, or until it reached the maximum in volume. For convenience, use a bigger bowl and have your flour prepared. The dough may take a little more or a little less flour. For me, it's around 400 grams. By the way, you will find all the measurements in cups and ounces in the description below. But for baking, I always recommend using a scale. Gradually add your flour. Once the dough is too thick to mix with a spatula, move it onto a flat surface like a table or a counter. Generously dust it with some flour. If the dough is still sticking to your hands, don't worry, it's all okay. It will harden in the fridge. Divide the dough into 8 or 9 parts. You can do more parts if you want a smaller but taller cake, or less parts if you want a bigger but flatter cake. I think 8 or 9 is the perfect number. I use a scale for this step too. Refrigerate the bowls in a Ziploc bag or just a plate covered with some cling. The refrigeration will take at least 1 hour, or you can do it overnight, but I prefer to do it all in one day. It's just easier this way. For the next step, we need a few things: a roller, a baking tray, some paper. Oh, almost forgot the fork. Have your oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And now the fun part, rolling your little lumps. I do them one after another directly on the parchment, also dusted with some flour. You want your layer to be really thin, around 1 or 2 millimeters. And then use a baking mold to cut a perfect circle of 7 inches. Do not remove the cake scraps, just spread them a little bit. We need to bake them in the same tray and use them for decoration later. Baking time may be different in different ovens. For me personally, it's 4 minutes exactly for each one of them. I do them one after another right away, so while the first one is in the oven, I roll the second one and then exchange them on the same baking tray and repeat 8 times. Sounds a bit time consuming, but actually if you make it one by one non-stop, it's actually pretty quick. That's how they look after baking. You want the color to be dark golden brown, sort of like whiskey color, but not too brown. Being so thin helps the cookies to chill really fast, and we can frost the cake right away. It's time for the cream, which literally takes 3 minutes to make. Take 400 milliliters or a little over 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream, followed by some vanilla extract of your choice, and whip until half done. Then add your icing sugar. Sour cream is the most traditional ingredient for frosting of a honey cake. That's what gives it the sourness and makes it really well balanced in terms of sweetness too. Mix sour cream in on low speed just until combined, and it's all done, just like I promised. Be ready to assemble the cake, which is super easy. You don't need any fancy equipment. Just lay your honey cookie, cover with some cream divided into 8 or 9 parts, which is about 100 grams per each layer. I would recommend surrounding your cake with some parchment paper or acetate film to separate it from the cake mold that we're going to use to fix the cake in a stable position. I don't do that because it doesn't really matter that much. The decoration of a traditional honey cake does not require the surface to be super smooth or perfect, but if you like everything to be neat, sure, go for that additional layer. Let your cake sit in the fridge for at least 5 hours, preferably overnight. And we're almost ready to serve the cake. We just need to decorate it. This is super easy. We need to make some crumbs by grinding our cake scraps. I do them kind of fine. You can also use a bag and a roller to make them a bit bigger chunks. Then take your cake from the mold or mold from the cake, smooth things up a little bit, just make sure you have enough cream on the sides, which should be pretty enough considering how much cream we used for it. Cover the sides and the top of the cake with some crumbs, and we create this really traditional look. It's pretty much done. The design is very simple. Honey cake is impossible not to recognize. I wanted to spice things up a little bit by adding a bit of a fancy touch. I made this caramel type of thing, just mixed some sugar and water on the stove until golden brown. Poured it over a baking tray with some parchment and let sit for 2 minutes. I hit it with a knife a couple times to make flat standing crystals to insert into the cake on top. I think the design is kind of cute and unusual. Kids will love the additional candy on top. I hope you enjoyed the process, and let's see how it looks inside. Look at those perfect layers of cream and cookie, which is basically not a cookie anymore. It gets super soft from the moisture of the cream. There's a lot of cream, right?